Hello everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Shivika. Today's webinar is brought to you by Varthana. We are doing this webinar series for school. And we are also following different themes. So our current theme is strategic beginning of the school. It's for the new academic year. So far we have talked about how you can plan opening your school and maximize your school growth by assessing your school using different tools and evaluation tools. Today we'll be talking about how you can beat the summer learning gap once students are back to school post summer break, and you can begin with a new academic year. So before we move into webinar and discuss what is today's agenda and what we'll be covering, other thing which I wanted to share is we'll be issuing participation certificate to those who will be attending this webinar and filling the form towards the end, the feedback form. So I'll request everyone, please attend the webinar till end, fill the feedback form, and then only we'll be able to issue the participation certificate to you. So let's move and see what we'll be discussing and covering today in today's webinar. We'll start with agenda. We'll start with a quick introduction of the participants, followed by objective, a bit of context setting, that what is summer learning gap and how it's impacting, understanding summer learning loss and its impact on student, implementing strategies to prepare students, followed by a bit of feedback and closing. So let's move and do a quick round of introduction. So here for introduction, I'm quickly going to launch a poll here to understand your profile. So I'll request everyone, please opt for your response and submit your response. Okay, quickly, I'm gonna publish the result of the polling. Most of the teachers are with us today, and others, thank you for joining. So let's move and understand that what is today's objective, what would be our major focus today on, what we'll be discussing. So we'll be talking about understanding summer learning break, what it is, and it's important, why it's important to bridge it and prepare student to do well in the current academic year or the new academic year, which is going to begin. And in many places, it has already begun. And also explore different strategies to bridge the learning gap. We'll talk about it, what is learning gap and how you can bridge it. So that would be the core focus on for today's webinar. So let's start with a quick activity, and here I'll encourage everyone to participate as much as possible. So I'm gonna project an image here. I'll request everyone to take a look at it, like observe this image properly. And then we are going to move into the activity and see what we'll be doing next. So I hope you have grasped what is there on the image. Now I'll request everyone to take some time, reflect what you have seen, and list out 7 items from the previous image, whatever you have observed, and please put it in Q&A section. Please list out 7 items of all the 15 items you have seen and put it in Q&A section, what you have seen. Okay, so I'll okay, I got one response that is by Poonam, jelly, kettle, butter, cap, okay, book, carrot, tree, magnifier, great. Okay, thank you for your responses. Cheese, teapot, carrot, cup, sunglasses, cloud. Okay, great, thanks. So as can someone raise their hand and share, or maybe share in Q&A section, that what do you think, why we did this activity? What is your reflection on it? Okay, so as you can see the responses in Q&A section, there are limited responses that too. You took time to sort of reflect and write those responses. Some of you ended up writing only 4 of the items which was visible on the screen. So this clearly shows that whatever you have seen, maybe a couple of minutes back, you forgot it. You were struggling to recall and put it down here. Think about the student who are coming back to school after 2 months of gap. What would be their retention capacity once they're back? How much they'll be able to remember and retain when they're back to the school post summer vacation? Do you think they would be they'll come back as it is, or they may have forgotten half of the things? If you agree to me that they have forgotten things, then you can again put it in chat box. Yes, no. Do you think they have forgotten, or they'll remember everything what you have taught them or what they have learned in the previous grade? Forgot. Yeah. So if we have observed something, forgot within like couple of minutes, then it's accepted and expected that kids will forget when they come back to the school. And that's one of the major thing which we face when schools reopen post summer break. So let's move on and discuss this further, that if there's an impact, how we can cater to that. So here, to understand, we all agreed, and some of us definitely agreed that kids forget. So I would want you to reflect and share that. What do you think? What challenges do you face when students come back to school after summer break? Do you face any challenges? For this, I'm going to launch a poll here. It's a multiple response poll. I'm going to wait here for 30 seconds to get your responses. What kind of challenges do you face when these students come back to school? Yes, so the most voted thing which we have with us right now is shorter attention span and learning loss. So these are two things which students come back with. They have decreased attention span. They struggle to sit at one place, focus and work and study. And the other is they may have forgotten half of the things of what they have learned in the previous grade. So that is there. And let's move on and see that why that happens. Like what are the some of the trends which we are seeing. So what you are saying, is it like relatable? Is it happening on the larger scale or not? So according to some research and some scholars, when a student come back to school post any gap, they estimate to lose a quarter of like learning, whatever they have learned in maths. So for example, a kid have studied something for a year. The kid may be able to retain only 9 months content and forgot whatever the other kid have learned in 3 months. So that's the amount of learning loss which a student can suffer post a long gap. And on an average, they may like lose up to like 2 months level grade level efficiency in maths and English. So that's another trend which is visible. Also, a lot of teachers spend time. So teacher do put their efforts to make it work, do like quick revision when they're back to school for initially 4 to 6 weeks. But we also will be deep, today we'll be getting into it, that how you can do it effectively when you do it, and how frequently you should be doing it, and these things. So there's clearly there's a lot of data and research studies support the fact that there is learning loss and it needs to cater. Otherwise, it will impact student in long run. So let's understand what is this gap and how it impacts the student. So it's a gap, it's a setback in learning and skills. If a student is out of school for a longer duration, and this duration is generally summer vacation, holidays, and they end up losing a lot of skills, and that cause them to fall behind maybe in the existing grade, or in future also they struggle to perform well. So this is a summer learning gap. So let's see that what is the amount of gap they see. So once the students are back in the school, there can be a gap between 17 to 30% of like their learning abilities. So they may have, if they know a concept, they may have forgotten around 17 to 34% of it. So this gap is huge because if a kid forget this amount of, like if this gap of like such a big gap, then they'll struggle to cope up in the existing grade. So this is one thing which needs attention. And it's not impacting anything, like it's impacting the core skill. The gap is in the core skill, that is reading, writing, spelling. So if a kid is struggling to read, then it's difficult to cope in the existing grade, or do higher level of like maths questions, or solve science related theories and questions. So these are basic skills which should be strong to understand, comprehend at any level and at any grade. And these core skills gets impacted when there is a gap in learning. So let's move and see that how it how does it happen, like what happened when for 2 months, what is not there consistently happening, which is impacting the memory of the child. So I want you to quickly connect with the activity which we have done. So what do you think? What happened that you struggle to recall, or put it in Q&A section, the responses, the number of items? So what happened? Why you struggle to do that? Can you just reflect on it quickly? Okay, so one of the things that happened is because it got stored in your short-term memory, it didn't get stored in your long-term memory. And for getting it stored in your long-term memory, there's this concept of space repetition, that you need to see one item, or you need to learn one thing or revisit one concept in certain duration. That is 1 day, 7 days, a month, maybe once in 2 weeks, a month, and once in 3 months. So there's this concept of space repetition. If I show you the same image in certain duration, maybe if I'm showing it right now, after 4 hours, I'll show it to you. After a day, after 7 days, you may be able to recall most of the things which I've shown to you. But if I'll only show it once and ask you to maybe respond to that right now, you may have forgotten maybe all of that, or at least like 70% of it. So just quickly check it. Can you just again put in Q&A section before seeing that, without seeing that, what are the items which you have seen in the image? Okay, so it's difficult, but if I quickly show you the same image, you'll be able to like revise it and see it again, and you'll be able to respond to me. So it's important to cater to such thing and ensure that it's getting like whatever we are learning is getting stored in our long-term memory. So why does it happen? Why this learning gap happens? Because we don't use it anymore. Like in summer vacation, students are not consistently using it, and that's how they're losing it. So it's important to use it, or if you won't do it, you lose the concept. There's a lot of practice. Students are out of practice. Again, they're not consistent. There's no accountability on their part, or there is accountability, but the accountability, they're not accountable on daily basis. There's no routine. There's disruption of routine. So even if they have to do a given task, they can do it according to their pace and whenever they want. And sometimes they keep on postponing, procrastinating, and delaying it. So that is also one of the reason that the learning keeps on getting delayed. The concept they have learned stays in the short term memory and not get shifted to long term, and that's caused summer learning loss. No academic motivation. So there again, there's no one who is motivating them to do it. Their peers are not there to interact with, or if they're learning something, they don't get the sense of achievement because there's no appreciation for the same. And in APS sector, parents' involvement is next to negligible. So that's also one of the reasons that the learning gap occurs. The other is lack of support. As I've mentioned, they do not get the support from parents, and the kind of support they get from teacher, it's not available for that duration. So that is one of the reasons that they suffer learning loss and skill loss, and also many times lack of resources. So it's not that kids only suffer learning loss; they also learn a lot of things during the summer break. So maybe they are losing on one skill, but if they're actively engaged and using resources, going for classes, maybe doing some activities, going for a camping. If they have the resources, they're learning. They're still learning something else and implementing the knowledge that they have learned, and they can be better retention. But for those students who lack resources to indulge in different activities, the learning loss is wider for them. So we have understood that what is learning loss, how it happened. Let's understand how it impacts students in long run. So it definitely impact their knowledge and skill. So there's this gap in their understanding and knowledge. They also lost a lot of things in long run. So the loss what they're suffering. So maybe for in grade 1, I suffer 20% of my knowledge loss. In grade 2, I'm suffering 30. Maybe this gaps will keep on widening by the time I'm moving to higher grades. So it's going to impact my like learning in long term, and not only learning. According to World Bank data, students who face a learning loss while when they are in school, and not like there's no proper strategies which are being used to bring them or improve their pace or make them do better, they suffer 5% of their earning loss as well. So that is there, and this also needs attention, because it's gonna not only impact the student in long run or in the current grade, it's gonna impact them in a long run. Also in transitioning. So if, for example, if a grade first student is there, the student has to move to grade 6. If I'm coming on the first day and feeling that I don't remember what I have learned, and my teacher has started teaching me something which was based on my previous grade topics. So for example, I may have studied 2-digit number in 5th grade, and now my teacher wants to move and teach me a 3-digit number by assuming that I already know how to do or solve or do an operation on 2-digit number. Then in that case, as a student, it would be difficult for me to learn 3-digit number if I'm not well versed with my 2-digit concept, 2-digit number operation concept. So when a kid is moving, transitioning from one grade to another grade, and suddenly there's this 2-month gap when they're transitioning. So it impacts them, and it impacts them when they're re-entering in the school, and you can see the gap widening when they re-enter, and it needs to be treated then and there once schools reopen. The other is socio-emotional impact. So if a student is not feeling that they can do it, there's a lot of transition happening around, not the required resources and support they got during the summer vacation. That impacts their socio-emotional health, and they get stress, anxiety, and this also causes a lot of behavioral issues. So it does impact a student in a holistic way, and that's how it's important to cater to this learning loss which students suffer during the summer gap. So also, if this keeps on happening, and if we are not dealing with it, and if we are not bridging this gap, this will keep on getting wider in long run, and it can, like, maybe a student can lose up to 2 to 5 years of learning by the time they reach higher grades. So that's a huge gap. So for example, if as a student I'm not getting proper if my teacher is failing to properly bridge the gap and ensure that my learning gap is fulfilled, by the time I reach 10th standard, I may be able to do or solve content of 5th grade. There can be a huge gap in my learning and understanding, and it's not going to match my current grade level. And that's the same thing which reflects in the ASA data year by year, that also the grade 7th and 8th students are not able to do 4th, 5th grade students operation, grade level operation. 5th standard students are not able to perform 3rd grade concept or operations on numbers, and same goes to English and other subjects. So it's important to pay attention to this and ensure that we are bridging this gap as a school. So let's move and understand what is this learning gap. So we have seen that there's a learning gap. What is the learning gap? Now we'll focus on what are the different kinds of learning gap. There's not one kind of learning gap which they're gonna face. It's not that they're only gonna maybe forgot the spellings you have taught them. They may have forgotten the entire basic concept of it. So let's understand what are the 3 different types of learning gap they face. One is knowledge gap. They may lack information, and information is easily accessible. So you can always resurface that information to them. And this is one thing which is easy to bridge by maybe revisiting the concept. So that is one thing. The other is skill gap. This needs more attention and more intervention from teachers' part to ensure that the gap is getting fulfilled, because here the core skills are getting impacted. Maybe the writing skill, the reading skills, students are out of practice, spoken English skills. So the basic skills are getting impacted. And for example, if as a student I am struggling to read, again, I may not be able to solve a numerical problem or a word problem. I'll struggle, because if I'm not able to read and comprehend, then it will definitely impact my other subjects as well. And it's same, if I struggle to read English, then I won't be able to understand and read what is there in science and comprehend and work accordingly. So it's very crucial to pay attention on a knowledge gap, a skill gap, and along with motivation gap. So there's something, maybe this lack of support. I didn't get as a student, I don't get the support. I don't feel motivated enough to learn. I feel lack of interest, and it can be due to various internal and external reasons. But these are different types of learning gaps which you can see in student. And once they are back to school, you have to identify what sort of learning gap they are suffering. Is it knowledge gap? Is it skill gap? Or is it motivation gap? So you will be able to plan your interventions accordingly. So let's move and discuss a bit that we have discussed that learning losses there, it impacts student and there are different types of learning gaps. I would like to hear it from you that you know that there are learning gaps. Are you using any strategies to cater to these learning gaps once students are back to school? So you can again put your response in Q&A section or you can raise your hand. Is there any strategy you're using, anything you're implementing when students are coming back to school to ensure that their knowledge gap is getting fulfilled, their skill gap is getting fulfilled, or they're motivated enough to do it or learn and cope with the current grade? Okay, bridge course revision. Thank you for your response. Yes, so it's important to do bridge course and revision when post summer break. And today our core focus would be about bridge gap, like bridge course and revision, that how once students are back, how you can identify and quickly start working on it, and that will show you results. So let's move on and see the strategies to like ensure that the learning gaps are getting fulfilled. So there are two strategies which we'll be talking about today. One is revision, where you just revise, revisit the concept, resurface the information, and that is the only thing which is needed. The other is remediation. So there is one specific skill gap a student is facing. So maybe a student is facing a reading skill or writing skill. So you have understood one particular area of development or more than one area of development, and then you understand, first you understand what is that area of development and have some focused targeted intervention to cater to that. It's not a generic intervention you're going to plan. It's going to be a targeted intervention. So let's move and see revision, that how you can do revision and what it is and how it's effective. So revision is basically a simple process of reviewing and revisiting. As if I have to make you do a quick revision of the activity I have done, I can quickly show it to you. Maybe resurface the question, give you some polls to choose from it, and you'll be able to like quickly revise what we have discussed there. So again, it's basically reviewing the old material or videos and learning or whatever you have covered. And the other is reinforce student to perform well. So do assessment, ensure that they are themselves reviewing and revising the concept and performing good in the assessment. So let's understand when to do it. When to do revision and remediation is crucial. It's important to understand. Maybe post summer break, for some students you may have to do only revision, and for others you may end up doing remediation. You can have a mixture of revision plus remediation. So it's important to understand when to do it. So before any assessment, you can just quickly take them through the topic and themes and concept you have covered. After any longer breaks, so post summer vacation, we all do this, like as I have also projected the data that schools and teachers spend 4 to 6 weeks of time in doing the revision once there's a longer break. And post any chapter. So if you want a student to learn and retain things in a long-term memory, then you can also do revision and repetition of the same content at certain duration. And the best way to do is maybe during and after the chapter is completed, instead of waiting it till towards the end or wrapping up all the chapters and then doing revision. So it's, you can also do it with the purpose of retaining it in the long-term memory. Let's see how to do it. That's also crucial. So for revision or remediation, it's for anything, it's important to assess whether a student wants revision or remediation. Do I need to resurface only information? There's only knowledge gap, or there is knowledge plus skill gap which you need to fulfill. So if there's only knowledge gap, it's you can just resurface the material and the student can learn and do it by themselves, or you can just quickly do some activity. But if there's a skill gap, then you have to plan, have a strategic plan that how you're going to ensure like learning in different ways, and how you're going to use different methods according to their understanding. Again, you can bring this concept of differentiated instruction, whether a student is an audio, visual, kinesthetic learner, cater to their needs depending on it. So for revision, you can just quickly do a formative assessment. Most of the time we do summative assessment. Refrain from that. That's also helpful, but maybe mostly after 6 weeks or post after an year. But after a year, but formative assessment is something which you can do maybe on daily basis. You can have a exit checklist, so you can have a filling the blanks, match the followings. So you can do small like assessments in between to ensure that the learning is happening, the student is revising, revisiting the concept. And you can do it by the end of the chapter, or you can just take a small test and see whether the kid has like understood what you have taught them or not, or do a standardized test, and it's more of a generic understanding of the learning level of the student. The other is, once you know that what is something you need to teach, what you have to revise, you can do that. I'll also quickly come to that how you can effectively revise, because you don't have to cover the entire chapter or line by line theory of a theory from the book to revise something. Because if I try to do that, if as a student I try to teach everything what I have taught in second grade, it's going to be difficult for me, and only teaching a student question answer is not going to be helpful. So we'll be covering that what revision strategies you can use, and how you can make it crisp and easy to, even if they have to reacquire or revisit the concept and knowledge, they can do it easily. You can help student to do it easily. So we'll be talking about those revision strategies as well, and it's important to monitor and evaluate. It's always important to have quick checkpoints to see whatever you're teaching or revising, students are learning or not. So let's move and see what are some of the revision strategies you can use. Again, you don't have to like deep dive into all the topics you have covered. You can always prioritize and say that these are few things which students have forgotten. A formative assessment or an assessment will give you an overview of this, that what are the things you need to pay attention on, and how you can cater to those needs. So some of the strategies you can use is think, pair, share. So for example, you got to know that students are maybe struggling to understand that how objects floats in water. So maybe you can just give them up, you can just give them some material, divide them in group, ask them that you try to float it, what you're seeing, why it's happening, indulge them in group activity, get reflections from them. So make them do it, and that's how you can revise it, and that will definitely build the conceptual understanding. And once the conceptual understanding is there, it's good to progress. It will be helpful for student to progress. And the best way to do is learning by doing. So you can do that, and then they can share their reflections and other stuff. Freya's model, again, do not try to teach everything what was there earlier or only question answer. Teach the major concept they need to learn. So I'm gonna cover this Freya's model using an example, and same with mind map. So for example, I want to teach noun to a student. I don't have to go line by line theory and cover all the examples which are there. I can maybe just define what is noun, what are the some factors related to noun. So noun is a part of speech. It's like name something is noun, and there are two types of noun, that is common noun and pronoun. The information which is important, relevant, not everything which is given in the textbook. So it's very important to do that, and that also saves a lot of time on teachers' part, and also saves student from retaining a lot of unnecessary information. So I have a as a student, I don't need to remember and recall things and know things which are not necessary. So Freya's model is very effective to sort of break down things and make it concrete for students to learn. Some of the facts that nouns are named people, places, things. There can be singular and plural nouns. And what are some of the examples? What are some of the non-examples of noun? So you can use the strategy to do revision. The other is mind map. Again, for example, you want to teach global warming. There are subtopics attached to it. So you can talk about that transportation is causing global warming because it's increasing the temperature of the atmosphere, and that's impacting our atmosphere. Deforestation, plants are cutting. We can maybe focus more on planting, farming. So these are subtopics. So if you try to teach me global warming and saying that, oh, there are a lot of vehicles there on the road, it's impacting, we are constructing more roads, we are cutting plants, then we are burning also a lot of fuels in farming. So if I have to remember a lot of theory, it's going to be really difficult for me. But if you try to make a mind map and say that, okay, global warming is happening and these are some major factors, then I can remember those particular words. And it's relatable. So using this strategy again, like revision can be done effectively. And again, the focus should be remembering the core of something or the core concept and not everything. For example, here, I can volcanic eruption. You can maybe talk about that this is an external factor, not under human control. How we can control other stuff. So you can use this strategy. We'll move and see this, that how you can implement it in your grade. But that is something I'm going to cover in the later part. So let's see remediation. So revision is for lack of knowledge and you can resurface the information. Remediation is lack of a specific learning skill. So a particular targeted intervention is required. A lot of support is required. Maybe you need to change your methodology which you're using to teach because there's clear gap. And if that gap is not dealt properly, then it's gonna get wider in future. So let's understand when to do it after identifying the learning gap. So it's important to do assessment, a pre-test to understand what is this learning gap, what is the skill gap a student is facing before advancing any complex topic. So for example, again, if I want to teach students 3-digit multiplication, I need to ensure that student know 2-digit multiplication. And if not, then I would like to teach the student 2-digit multiplication and then move to 3-digit multiplication. Or if I'll be able to successfully teach them 2-digit multiplication, then there's a possibility they may be able to break the 3-digit multiplication by themselves. For periodic check-ins and before any assessment, if there is any skill gap which the student is facing. So let's understand how to do it. Again, assessment, a diagnostic assessment, assessment to understand what is this gap, what is something I need to teach. I don't have to again teach and cover everything here. I can be specific about what I want to teach as a teacher. So a comprehensive assessment tool is going to play a major role to understand the skill gap and work accordingly. So for that, your tool needs to be designed in a way that it's catering and testing the skill, not only the knowledge. So if you see our general Q&As, if you see our general assessment type, it is the knowledge and not the skill, not the implementation of knowledge. So here it's important to assess the skill using a comprehensive tool. What these tools can be, it can be a pre-test or a diagnostic test, it's quizzes. Using concept map, you can just check whether a student is able to work through the flow, remember how it works. Or you can also encourage student to take a self-assessment and identify or help them identify the core development needs and work accordingly. Some of the remediation strategies, again, once you know that what is the skill gap, you can plan your remediation accordingly and teach accordingly. This is also I'm going to cover towards in the next slide. Monitoring and evaluation. It's important to know that whatever intervention you're planning or implementing, it's working out or not. And if not, then you can always do this course correction by maybe changing your strategies and making it more effective. So this is remediation. Let's understand the strategies that is going to play a crucial role. Some of the strategies to do remediation is collaborative learning. So again, collaborate, learn from peers, learn from each other, one-on-one learning, learning through different activities, like showing them things to do the concept building. So it's important to do that. Also, sometimes you cannot cater it by yourself as a teacher if there's a lot of learning gap, because you have to take care of your revision, basic, current grade level, and there are certain set of students, they are only struggling and the others are doing better. So maybe you can take their help in dealing with those students who are not performing that well or who are struggling with a particular skill through collaborative learning approach, or you can also get some external support programs for them. We'll talk about that as well. Or as a teacher, you can have a targeted intervention to cater to their needs. So again, maybe depending on their learning ability and depending on their learning level, you can plan interventions. Try to teach them at that from there, and that's how you can help them to learn and bridge the learning gap. So I'll quickly share an example of collaborative learning, how you can do that. So for example, students, a grade student, a grade 5 students or 6 student are struggling with vocabulary related to elements and chemical reaction. How I can do a collaborative learning to ensure that whatever they're learning, they're getting the conceptual understanding, clarity from different angles, and it's getting stored in their long-term memory. So as a teacher, I can create a vocabulary list. I can prepare a list containing all the important vocabs related to elements and chemical reaction. I can set some rules, explain it to them that they have to participate and they have to draw a word from the list I have made, and also demonstrate them. Maybe I can just go and draw it for them and ask them that they pick a word, they share it with their partner, and then draw the same and break down them in team, and they can share it one by one. There's a repetition of information is happening, and the others can guess what the one person have drawn. So it's like basically indulging them, making them do a lot of peer learning, and also focusing on core concept of it. So if I, as a student, if I struggle to understand basic chemical reaction or how it's happening, how it's mixing with other element and what would be the reaction, then you won't be able to make me do or solve different formulas or other stuff. So it's important to learn this, and a collaborative learning approach is a good way to do that. And for example, if I want to do targeted intervention, if I want a student to remember, oh, this is iron metal or this is bronze, I can show it to them. I can indulge them in activity where they can touch, feel it, share it with the person about the color, the weight of the material, how they're finding it different. Is there any chemical reaction which is happening? Is they're bringing it in the contact of air, water, or anything else? So you can form and do these strategies, utilize these strategies effectively, depending on the learning gap which a student is suffering in your class. So this is just an example. I'll explain that. I'll be discussing some of the implementation examples moving on. So here, before I jump to assessment tool, I'm gonna quickly revise what we have covered today. So we have started with some of the trends which we see post summer break, and what is summer learning break, how it's impacting students, the different type of learning gap which students face, and followed by revision and remediation to cater to those learning level. So to do remediation, assessment is going to play a major tool, because you have to identify the need where you have to intervene. So for that, assessment is going to play a major role. So as a school, you can have your internal assessment, or you can maybe form a formative and summative assessment and assess that where your student is lacking, and cater to their needs using these strategies, which I have discussed. So there are multiple of different other strategies which you can do. The purpose is to ensure that students are learning. But the other thing which we have with us is one of tool designed by Vardhana in collaboration with Pratham, and some external tools which I'll be talking about. Using these tools, once your students are back to the school, you can maybe quickly do their assessment and understand what are the skills they're lacking and work around accordingly. So here I'm going to quickly show you Pratham's teaching at the right level tool. So here's this tool to basic check the conceptual understanding, the fundamental understanding, and how much your student are able to do. Do you need to do revision? Are they able to recognize number from 1 to 9 or recognize number from 1 to 99? Are they able to do subtraction? What sort of subtraction they are struggling on? Is it when it's the carry forward related question, division? That will also give you insight about whether they know multiplication or not, because to do division you need multiplication, understanding of multiplication. And once you're aware that a student is maybe they don't remember table, or they don't know how a table is formulated, then they'll struggle to do division. So that's how you can maybe take a step back, teach them multiplication, or help them understand that what is 2 into 2, or why it's 2 into 3 is multiplying 2 thrice times. So you'll be able to help them to clarify those concepts. So this is one of the tools. As I've mentioned, that at Varthana also we have designed some tools for grade 1 to 5. So here, this is also good for assessment. I'm going to quickly take you through. It's a comprehensive assessment. So there are different type of skills which we are assessing through this tool. And there are different typology of questions. Questions are asked in different way for different grades. So if you are interested, you can let us know, and we can share this tool with you if you're interested. So please do that. I'll just quickly show you that there are interesting ways to see the conceptual understanding. So if you just ask a kid to write cat, they may be able to write it. So are they gonna recognize it? Are they able to count it? Like 1, 2, 3. If you just tell them to write 3, they may be able to write it. But are they able to match their conceptual understanding with the visual things which they are observing? So this is another tool. If you want to take it for your school for remediation, you can always let us know, and we'll share it with you. So as I've said, that there are these tools which we have, and you can do your assessment of the student, test their skills, and know whether interventions is required using these tools. There are some free tools also, some free resources, that is bioeducation.com, Khan Academy. There are a lot of activities which are there, worksheets to solve, assessment sheets to check whether the student have understood or not. So towards the end of the webinar, we'll be sharing a handout with you, and you'll be able to access to all the resources which I'm talking about and showing it to you. So let's move on. We have discussed that for remediation, you need a tool to understand and then remediate. Let's see how you can utilize these things. So now as a school, you have understood that these are the skill set I need to maybe remediate, and these are some of the concepts I need to help student to revisit and revise. So you can have a clear understanding. So once you know that revision and remediation is important, so what you can do is assess them and give them remediation and revision accordingly as per their need. So for example, there's this grade 1 student. The grade 1 student have learned part of speech, phonics, tenses, and punctuation. And in grade 2, the student have to do a sentence formation. A student needs to learn how to structure a sentence. So whatever they have learned in grade 1. So maybe for this particular topic, to learn and expand on this topic in grade 2, they may not need phonics and tenses, and you don't have to revise this phonics and tenses. For grade 2, your focus should be part of speech and punctuation. So once your students are back to the school, maybe you can cover the parts of speech and punctuation, but only if there's knowledge gap. But if there's skill gap, they don't understand at all what is phonics or what is part of speech, no understanding about it. In that case, you have to do remediation and ensure that the conceptual understanding is being developed, because if that is not there, the student is going to focus on writing a sentence or structuring a sentence. So it's important to know, again, not revise and revisit or remediate everything. Revise, revisit, which is important concept. So as I mentioned, maybe phonics and tenses are not important at this point and not going to be useful. So you can focus on important concept. Also, once you do revise and or you do remediation, you won't be left with a lot of time for covering your existing grade content. And that's why we skip many times at school, we skip grade revision and remediation, because the focus is to cater the current grade learning. But it's important to do it because this is going to speed up your learning. So once if I have done a revision of part of speech and punctuation, then the understanding of a sentence formation is going to be the students are going to quickly grab how they can form the sentence, and that will save a lot of your time. But again, in your grade level, there would be certain concepts and themes which you don't need to cover. and there's no relevance of it. You can always focus on the core or fundamental concept, which is crucial. Because if you pick up your textbook, there are a lot of stuff which is written there, which either you have covered or not necessary at this point. It's just given there. As a school, you can definitely consider focusing on the core concept and core learning, set up clear objectives that what are the things you need to cater to, and cater to only those. And that's how you can speed up your learning and ensure that students are doing well by covering up what they have learned earlier and also coping up with the current grade. So that's how you can do it. And again, revision is something which is important now. Like you can do this spaced repetition, constantly revise, expose student to different materials. This is crucial. So once your students are back, try to implement this. See what are some of the skills from grade 1 is still relevant in grade 2, and they're going to use it. List that down, or try to revise that on tidy basis. Use different strategies to revise and remediate, and remediate if required, and then begin with your second grade learning. So let's see one example of English subject. So maybe you want to teach part of speech, the topic which we have covered. You can quickly do think, pair, share activity, just to do a quick reinformation, like resurfacing of the information that what is part of speech, and kids may be able to quickly revive the concept what you have taught them earlier. And if not, if there's a skill gap, then you can do a targeted intervention. You like indulge them in learning part of speech using different strategies, materials, videos, through peer. So that is other thing you can do. And once that is done, then you can definitely easily move to your existing grade learning, that is sentence formation. And again, pay attention to only those things which are important and crucial, and you can do away with things which are not that important. So for example, if in grade 2, if word formation is given, but your core focus is to do sentence formation and students are already aware of word formation, then in that case, you don't have to repeat it just because it's given in the course. You can definitely skip and move from there. So same with maths. If you want to teach fraction to a student, a bit of fraction, what is like whole number, you have already covered. Numerator, denominator is covered. So you can just do a quick revision using Freir's model here. Or what is a fraction? Facts, some facts about fractions, some examples of fractions, some examples of non-fraction, that is a whole number. Again, if you see the revision is not working out, and their assessment, after assessment, you realize that there's skill gap. Maybe a student has zero understanding about what is a whole number. So it's difficult to teach a student fraction without making them understand what is a whole number. So you can again give here supported. You can give them a support program, maybe do additional classes, remedial classes for them, or enroll them in some courses where they get clarity of these learning these topics, and from there you can help them to like cope up with the current grade learning, which is fraction. But again, if you don't try to cater to these learning gaps, that if you don't try to teach them what is a whole number, then teaching them fraction is not going to be of any use. Then it's going to be a rote learning for them, and that's going to impact their learning in future. So again, I'm going to reiterate this. It's really crucial to have revision and remediation depending on the need. And that will definitely speed up the learning in the current grade. So many times as a teacher, we may think that it's going to be time consuming and it's going to impact what I'm going to teach a student and of this particular grade. But that's something that's a myth, and this will just speed up your learning. Speed up students' learning. So whatever we have covered, like learning laws, strategies to do it, and how you can do it by quickly revising what they have already learned, or quickly remediating the skill they have lost. And if there's a small gap, so for example, as a student, if my teacher retaught me or remediate my word understanding, word formation understanding, as an adult, I may not struggle to read and write words. But if you try to like remediate that in fifth grade, I'm going to struggle because I have to start from scratch. So it's important to remediate and revise as soon as possible. So post summer break, this is one of the priority for this. This should be one of the priorities for the school to ensure that the learning gaps are not widening. So whatever we have covered, let's see a practical implication of this. And I'm gonna like share some case study here, which we're gonna do together. So again, I'll request everyone to participate and share. So there's one case study. So in grade 2, as a teacher, you see that 20% of students are unable to form 4-word letters. A letter or 4-letter words post summer vacation. So you are a grade 2 student, and 20% of your student after joining back the school, they learned it in grade 1, but now they're struggling post summer vacation. So in that case, what would you do? Will you do revision or remediation? Which strategy you'll use here? So for to get the responses, I'm going to launch a poll. So in such scenario, what will you do? You'll do revision or remediation? So I'm gonna publish the results here. Most of you said revision, but many of you said remediation as well. So in such case, the strategy which is effective is revision, because they have studied it, and like only 20% of the students are struggling with it. So the delivery of the content in first grade is done effectively, but there are certain students who may need support, and you can plan a remediation depending on their needs, or you can help other students to help them, and like you can do collaborative learning to ensure that their peers are helping them to understand. So the best way to do this in this case is do a revision. Like you have taught, the student may have forgotten it. There's less number of students, and if there are some students, you can do collaborating learning with them and help them to learn it. So how you gonna do revision in such case? So maybe you can quickly do a think, pair, share activity. You make them revise the basic alphabet and phonics. Maybe you can just share some videos on it. You make them do think, share, pair activity where they'll be sharing their basic understanding of alphabets and phonics and some word family to form words and recognize the word formation pattern better. You can also give them some game, Scrabble, where they can practice formation of 4-letter words. So these are small things which you can do, and this is easily doable. You can quickly do it, and you can also integrate a lot of technology to do such things. You can do it as a school, and you can proceed with your current grade learning. So let's quickly see the case 2, where in grade 5, 80% of the students are unable to solve math division problem. So your 80% of the student, they have studied division in 4th grade, but when they entered in 5th grade, you took a assessment and you're seeing a pattern that 80% of them are not able to do the division problem. They're not able to solve the division problem. So in such case, what would you do? You'll do revision or remediation. I'm going to again launch a poll here. Okay. I'm going to publish the result here. Most of you voted for remediation and some of you also voted for revision. So here, I'll say revision is, maybe revision is not going to be that effective. It's not going to be that effective because there are a lot of students who are struggling with the problem. And if you're just reviewing and resurfacing the information, there would be a huge learning gap for most of the students. So going with only revision is not going to be effective here. What you can do is plan remediation. Maybe try to understand that why students are struggling. Maybe the method you have taught, are they not able, is it difficult for them, or is it not suiting their learning style? What is the issue? So identify that and plan targeted intervention. So maybe you can form small groups, help them to understand the concept, provide them clear instructions that, what they can do to solve division. Maybe show them the deductive method, or help them to learn multiplication again and how they can use deductive method, or teach them division using various methods that can be again part of your targeted intervention. maybe the way you have taught them earlier is something that they're not able to comprehend, and even if they're able to remember, they are not able to implement that knowledge. So in maths, you need to implement the understanding of your like your understanding, and that's where the students are struggling. Is it something to do with their language comprehension? So you can think around those lines and plan your intervention. So here you can maybe try different methods. You can try long division method instead of direct division. We can help them understand repeated subtraction, that if you're doing division, that is repetitively subtracting things using multiplication factors. So your factors, like if you're factoring, that's division. So like help them to understand and resonate with the best possible method, and that will be able to like help them do division problem, not necessary one. There's no one division method, and not necessary every child is gonna learn from the same. But here clearly in this case study, something is not working out, which needs to be remediated, because if a student is struggling in division, then that will impact in solving word problems and other problems as well, and other further maths problem. So you can also do this by engaging them in quick puzzles. Maybe you can just show them some videos where division is happening, how things are getting carried forward, how numbers are getting carried forward, how multiplication is playing major role, why table is crucial for doing quick divisions. So you can indulge them in different activities, hands-on learning, and give them like real life problems to solve. So for example, you can just give them 4 items and ask them that if you have to divide this equally, how many items will be there with each student or each of your team members. So you can definitely show them practically and build the conceptual understanding. Once they do know how division happens, they'll be able to do it by themselves. So it's crucial to indulge, understand, and indulge them in revision and remediation. Also, to make things easy, we have also added a sample plan. Didn't want to stretch this session. So you'll be getting the handout, and the sample plan is there. Once the schools students are back to school, how you can you make your sorry, it's not lesson plan, it's a timetable. So how you can make timetable to ensure that you are revising, remediating as per the need, and also side by side your current grade learning is happening. So we'll be sharing that with you as a part of takeaway from this session. So let's move and see that and discuss that we have covered that it's important, and we should do it, and how we can do it, how you can have a timetable, some remediation strategies, and how you can teach a different concept using these remediation strategies. You can explore your own remediation strategies and utilize it for your student. So let's also discuss that what are some of the things we should keep in mind while planning all this revision and remediation. Someone has put in Q&A section that most of the time revision strategy is there, and as lack of time. But if you do a revision strategy, then you can cut down on a lot of your unnecessary topics and focus on core topics, and that's how you can effectively manage your time. So again, do not focus on the syllabus, like do not focus on chapter by chapter. Focus on the core competency required for that particular grade. So list that out, and that would be helpful for you. So as a teacher, do not try to teach student lesson by lesson. Try to teach the concept. That's how you'll be able to effectively manage your time. Anyone wants to share what are the other things which we should take care of while planning for bridging this learning gap? Okay, I'm gonna quickly move and discuss that. So it's important to have bridge courses in place. If you don't have, there are a lot of bridge courses which are available, or you can pull some data from there and make customize it for your student. Take a pre-test. Pre-test is really important, and or just do that. Have a regular check-ins. feedback and reflection is important. So if you're doing revision, remediation, or teaching in regular classroom, it's important to get the feedback and reflect whether things are working out for not. You are not, if certain strategy is not working out for certain topic, or maybe you can again reflect and do a course correction and explore other strategies. Get parents involved. Parents involvement is crucial. Try to figure out that how, like during summer break, how parents are gonna be there, and once even students are back to the school, how parents are catering, involve them in different activities, explore different activities with parents. They are important stakeholders. Focus on social and emotional learning. So if a student is not motivated enough, stressed, anxiety, irrespective of how much effort you're doing to bring make them do really good in their current academic year, it's difficult to cater that. So maybe you can just do some like venting activities. You can do circle time activities every day to ensure that students are speaking up their fears, sharing their anxiety, and building bond and relationship. So it's important if you're preparing student for next academic year, along with parents' involvement, assessment, proper course and remediation plan. You need to focus on the social-emotional health of the student. Also, it's a continuous learning process. So keep on revisiting, revising, constantly you use technology, do a lot of technology integration. If you think that you lack time and you cannot do it by yourself, maybe guide them through different platforms, help them, assign them different work, maybe automate some of your tasks, or give them quizzes and puzzle where a student is able to do pre-assessment, and a student can be a self-learner. They don't have to be dependent on the teacher by themselves, but as a teacher you have to guide them through to do such things. So it's important to ensure that continuous learning is happening, and you're also sharing different modes of learnings with them. So moving to that, I'll also be covering a bit that what things you can do to like sort of cater it. I'll quickly do the summary of what we have covered today. So we have spoken about summer learning gap, its impact, and why it's important to bridge that gap and bring student back to the current level, do revision and remediation, and the holistic approach to bridge the gap and ensure that students are ready for the next academic year. So to do that, and someone has mentioned in the group that it's a struggle to manage things. So if you think you are struggling and you won't be able to do by yourself, you can always have partners, and you can do collaboration. So Arthana has a partner, Lead School. So they have like really good remedial content, lot of activities, videos for students to do self-learning, and also assessment to assess them. So if you are interested, you can connect with us and take this Lead School program, or encourage your school to take it for better teaching. And there's other portable CAN machine. It's a portable projector. Because again, maybe you want to indulge student in different activities, audio, visual, learning materials, and using this portable device, you can do that as well. These are Varthana's partners, and you can let us know your interests. So if you are interested, do connect with us,